Welcome to Narratives and Nightcaps, Books, Beverages, and Author Conversations. Today I am joined by Claudia Esnouf to talk about her travel memoir, Walk Like a Girl. Hello, Claudia. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Bree. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm so excited to talk with you. I haven't stopped thinking about your book. And I was just immediately when we connected, I was like, I have to talk with her. I have to read this because it's so inspiring. But I guess before we get into that and before you start to tell people what it's all about, do you have a nightcap pairing for us?
I do. I am a sucker for an amaretto. I don't know if you've if that's a thing in the
I
US.
love amaretto. Oh my
I
goodness.
I love
Okay,
it.
carry on.
Yeah, and my best is I have an aunt in South Africa and she loves one too, and she's the only other person I know who loves one. So when we meet up, we have an amaretto and it's the best.
Oh, I
Um,
love amaretto. I'm so okay, we've never had anyone say that. That's new for the show.
it just
I
Christmas and marzipan and it's just it's so nice.
It's so good. My husband and I were in Canada over the holidays, over Christmas, this past Christmas, and we were in like a little pub type place
Yeah.
in Quebec, and and I tried like an amaretto that made somewhere in Quebec, and it was the best. And I was like, how do I get this back to the States? Like,
No, I
how
know.
do how do I do this?
And they have the new thing here is like amaretto sour. That's like cocktails and they're
Yeah.
so good. Yeah, no, I highly recommend that to everyone, especially in winter.
Okay, I think I know what's on the agenda for my evening tonight. I need to have amaretto or an amaretto sour.
Yeah.
I love that. Such a good one. Well, let's get into it. Let's talk all about your book. For people that haven't had an opportunity to read it just yet, can you give us a quick overview of Walk Like a Girl?
Yeah, so it's a memoir. It's based on my own experiences, oof, I think now about 6 or 7 years ago, maybe more actually, about traveling around the world when I was in my mid-20s with my partner at the time. We went through amazing, exotic foreign countries, Georgia, Armenia, India, Nepal. And it's about the adventure of the physical adventure of walking and camping and just the physical effects it has on your body, but then also the mental toll it had on it too. We were quite very unprepared. It was a long time. And then, well, I don't want to spoil the book, but then certain things happen, and it's just really about finding sort of your internal strength and being able to continue walking and finding that courage.
Well said. It definitely is that. You cover so much beyond the physical, but a lot of the emotional and mental strength. And as someone who finds herself in a position of trying to find herself right now, it was definitely the right right time for me to read your story. You do touch on it a bit in the book, but for people that again haven't had an opportunity to read it just yet, can you take us back to the moment that you decided that you wanted to go on that journey, that you wanted to travel, and like was it spontaneous? Was it something that you had planned for a long time?
So I think let's see, let's go back about 10 years. I had moved to Edinburgh. I'm originally from Chile. And I think it was post-university when you're meant to find a career, you're meant to settle yourself, you're meant to find a partner and all these things. And I, especially with the career part, I was very unsure of what I wanted to do. I had a job which I wasn't passionate about. And I guess it was just really getting itchy feet. My parents were people who always traveled, so I always had that instilled in me. And then well, I met my partner at the time who was also quite keen in traveling. I always had a tendency, especially in bookshops, to go towards the travel writing section. I always used to find that really exciting. And I also think it was around that time that Cheryl Strayed's Wild book came out. And I just got obsessed. I mean, ugly obsessed. I was like, oh my God, I want to be this person. I want to walk the PCT. I want to, like, this just sounds like the way to find yourself. And I got very, yeah, like obsessed with all that kind of literature. Not, and Cheryl Strayed, I mentioned her because she was one of the few women who had this book out there. And most of the other were men, and their stories were also amazing, but they were a little bit harder to relate to because they were ex-army, ex-military. They were going through the Antarctica and things that were a bit like, okay, that's going to be a bit too much of a
A
posting
little extreme.
now. So I think it started off with that. So I remember sort of coming up with the idea and then becoming completely hooked on it, getting my partner on board, and then for about 8 months, just saving every single penny, mapping out all the routes. Um, yeah, sort of prepare. It sounds funny because we actually did prepare quite a bit. We got the backpacks, the boots, and da da da, but we didn't prepare physically. So once we got there with the backpacks and the good boots and the poles, it was like, oh my God, now we actually have to go up a mountain. And
Well,
that part we hadn't really planned.
I feel like I can relate because, like, I think about that. So, my husband and I love to hike. We have not hiked the way that you have hiked. And although I really, really want to, but I always think about that because I'm like, okay, we're in good shape. Like, we go to the gym, we walk our dog, and then all of a sudden we'll find ourselves at the base of a mountain, and I'm just like, there's no way
Mm,
we're
yeah.
gonna get up this.
Exactly, and I'd like to say, I mean, you say, "Oh, the way you hiked." I never planned on doing that much walking or going that high up a mountain. It was like we were just doing it, and then it was like, right, well, we're either gonna sleep like right here on the hill, or we're gonna get to the campsite, which is 20 kilometers away. What do you want to do? And it was that kind of like, right, we have no option. Um, and also, it's one thing hiking a beautiful sort of flat path, sunny days. This is like raining, snowing, like, dealing with damp clothes and the temperatures, the seasons. Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure I would recommend everyone to do it the way I did it, especially to start off with. Um, yeah, I think it's good not having an option because then you have to do it.
Oh my goodness. Well, so on that note, I guess what places in your memoir stand out most vividly in your memory today?
I think Georgia will always stand out a lot because it was the first place we went to and everything was so raw there. Um, like I just remember like unpacking my new backpack and like the shoes were brand new and I'd never been to Georgia. To be honest, I don't think I'd ever heard of Georgia unless it was the one in America. Um, it's this country sort of wedged between Turkey, Iran, Russia, and it's beautiful, like quite untouched, a lot of farmland, not a word of English. And that I think that will always sort of I was quite overwhelmed there and everything was quite raw. But it was stunning with the mountains and the glaciers and everything else. So and then yeah, I mean India, I was quite overwhelmed by India. I think our first stop was Varanasi, and that was a lot um, to go into. And even though I'd had a bit of travel preparation beforehand, nothing prepared me for just the busyness of India. And I think having come from sort of the peaceful mountains to go into the cities of India was like, whoa.
Going
So,
from like little interaction
yeah.
with people all of a sudden to that, I would imagine that would be jarring.
That was hectic, and yeah, the people, the animals, it was a lot. Yeah, because as you said, for like 4 or 5 months before that, we'd been like having these little hikes in the mountain and sometimes finding like a shepherd who didn't speak English, so we would just wave and walk past. And yeah, I mean, each country was super unique. Nepal was something my heart had been set on going from the get-go, and so seeing the mountains there was also incredible. Um, yeah, I mean, each place had its little special traits.
It was fun even while reading with you, and maybe this just shows the American in me, but, I was constantly, like, Googling all of the places because I was like, "Okay, I wanna see, like, where she's at now, and what does it look like?"
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so it was I mean, it was interesting to follow along too, and I haven't been to India, but I've certainly seen photos and I've heard about the busyness. Have you maybe you saw it in person. Have you ever seen, like, how crazy it is on their trains when people ride on the outside of the
Yeah,
trains?
yeah,
So
yeah.
packed.
We saw that in person. We saw people on the roofs. We saw people um, just like lining the trains. Every time the train would stop, for whatever reason, like hordes of people would come and they'd jump on the train and come and like sell things and then quickly jump off. And you'd be like, oh my God, he's gonna fall. But
That's terrifying.
it was, yeah, it was really scary. Um, yeah, and also because I had to well to write the book, and in order for it to sort of be coherent, I had to edit out a lot of other places we'd been to. So it's sort of a summary of what we did. But as you say, like there's so many little towns and cities I wish I could have mentioned. But otherwise it would have been too long of a book.
Well, I was actually curious. I was wondering, like, what places you did choose to leave out. So if you had to pick one that you could have, like, put back in or that you would talk about, what place would you say that is?
um So I'd say there were two places. One in India, we did a lot of Darjeeling and Assam, I think the north of India, which was absolutely beautiful. But I guess even in terms of the story, and it is based on a true story, not too much happened there besides just being really, really nice. So it felt like, okay,
You're
like
like,
I'm
"This doesn't move our story along a lot," even though I really liked it.
I know I can't talk about, 3 chapters about a beautiful bookshop I found there, even though I really wanted to share that.
Obviously, your title hints more than hints at the experience of traveling as a woman or just being a woman in general. Um, can we talk a little bit about, like, the different ways that gender shaped your journey as well?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's so much to talk about there, but I genuinely don't know if I would have had the trip I had I not gone with a man. I think having gone with my partner at the time, he did a lot of the heavy lifting, literally would carry my bag, but also made decisions, sometimes reckless maybe, but he had sort of more of the adrenaline, the confidence, that I would have been like, whoa, 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 like let's look after ourselves. Um, but I think because of that, he opened up a lot of adventures, not just him, but also the other men I met on the way, who were sort of maybe more adrenaline junkies, were
Like
going.
my husband.
Um, so I'm not saying they made the most sensible of decisions. I definitely didn't write back home telling of those decisions at the time. But yeah, I think my trip as a woman on my own would have been completely different. I don't think I ever would have gone to India on my own. A lot of the journey involved camping, hitchhiking. There's no way I would have tried that on my own. And in fact, I met a few women. Again, I think I tried to include a couple of women I met on the way, but I just met very few, and they all had a story behind them of experiences that had sort of tainted their journey. Because of uncomfortable situations they'd encountered, or yeah, just being on their own. I don't know if you this is a bit sidetracked, but if you ever watched the documentary Gabby Petito,
Oh,
it
yep, I
it
did.
was yeah, I watched it a few months ago and I was very triggered by it. My husband was like, "Why are you so?" I was like, "Because that is a situation that could happen to so many girls. You know, you're traveling with a guy. I mean, luckily, even though he's my ex-partner, he was always a good guy. It was all great, but you could very easily be in an isolated position with a guy, and there's no signal. You're in a country where you have no idea where the nearest hospital is, how to even contact a policeman or something like that. So, I yeah, I don't know. I'm very grateful I had the experience, but I've had younger girls come up to me saying like, "Oh, do you think I should go do all this on my own?" And I'm like, "Oh, I I feel like I live to tell the tale, but I'm not sure I'd be like, "Yeah, go for it," you know? Um, like, I think Europe and doing the Camino afterwards from France to Spain, that was absolutely fine, no problem doing it by yourself as a woman, but I'm not sure I'd just say go ahead and go to all these other countries on your own. Um,
Yeah, it's interesting because, well, in the back of my mind, I've always kind of had this, I don't know, like romanticize the idea of a solo trip somewhere.
yeah,
And I mean, thankfully now, like I have a husband who very much enjoys doing that with me. And I think we like complement each other a lot in ways. He definitely has adrenaline side to him that I don't necessarily have. So there have been, I think back to our hiking trip that we did last year, and we went to one mountain, and there was this one area where you could continue, and I was like, "I'm out, like,
yeah,
that's all you. If you wanna do that, that's fine. I'm
yeah,
parking right here, and I'll be here when you get back." Like,
yeah.
I'm not doing that.
That's it.
But
I think there's definitely like a woman's side to it's not that we need comfort and luxury, but we do appreciate a soft bed. You know, even things, I mean, this is TMI, but with our periods, there were so many times I was in the middle of the mountains and I couldn't get a tampon and or a pad, and my partner at the time was sort of like, "Oh, get on with it." And it's like, you don't know how uncomfortable this is, and there's no shower or hygiene or you got a
well,
little bit of water.
and I forget where were you? Where were you? And, like, the hole in the gr and you're like, "How am I supposed to have my period and, like, take care of this when, like, there's
Yeah,
not anything
yeah,
for me to do
exactly.
this."
Or like you run out of your medication if you're on the pill, or I get lots of headaches and I would run out of my Nurofen, and then where do I go and get some more? Like,
Yeah.
I think women are just a bit more there are a few more things we need to be concerned on. I also remember, I'd taken a couple of hair ties, essential when you're going hiking. I had really long hair at the time, and I'd lost them. And I mean, it must have taken me about 3 weeks to find some place where I could communicate that I needed a hair tie, and they finally got what I was asking. But again, men don't have to worry so much about those little things. Um,
Oh. Oh my
yeah,
goodness. No, that's so true. You don't really think about all of those little things that you either can't you just can't pack enough of them or
yeah,
plans change or you end up somewhere else.
yeah.
Um,
As I said, when I was traveling, I saw some girls on their own, and it was always yeah, it was always a bit concerning of like, are you okay? And even in the relationship, I mean, and also the other thing that Gabby Petito had, she obviously had sort of on the way estranged herself from her family a bit and or was in isolation. And I'm very in touch with my family, but when I was on these travels, you're sort of trying to prove a point that I mean, I was trying. I sort of I made myself think I have no option. I need to do this. I can't tell anyone if things are not going right. So I was very, also, I didn't have much signal. So I was very out of touch with friends and family. I would send my dad or my mom a couple of emails here and there. But it's very easy if things had gone wrong to sort of not be able to be in touch, or to hide things. I mean, I remember at that point my relationship was falling apart, but I was just too proud to share that with anyone. I was still on this trip, and I think it comes in my book, where I eventually called my dad and I said, "Listen, I'm in India, and shit has hit the fan, basically." Um, and they had no idea because so far all I'd been sending them were pictures of the two of us having a great time. So it was like, what? Like when did things go wrong? And kind of like, should you come back home or what are you gonna do? And but yeah, you can hide a lot when you're on the road, and I can just I think the Gabby Petito story hit me because it can easily happen to anyone. Yeah, anywhere.
yeah, absolutely. Well, and you touched on a point too where I think, especially for in your position, like being a woman, I think women, we also have been so ingrained to like always look like we have it together. So not only was there a pride element that I think, you want to show other people, but also prove to yourself that like
Yeah.
everything's going to be fine. And
Yeah.
I do feel like maintaining sort of this like some sort of confidence is like really, I think, crucial to like
Yeah,
persevering and being a
yeah.
bit resilient too. So there's so many elements to that, but I do think that component of for women specifically of having to appear like, hey, I've got it all together. So you don't want to share like maybe the harder sides or the challenges or the scary encounters that
Mm.
you've come across, because then you're going to be showcasing that, and then 2, you're gonna probably worry other people, which is not necessarily what you
Yeah.
want. There's so
And
much
also
to unpack.
because, like, when I went traveling, I'd given up so much and against, people who loved me, judgment. So I'd given up my job, I'd given up my flat. I was with a partner that things eventually didn't work out, and it was just like, the whole time I remember, like, people close to me being like, "What are you doing? Are you sure you wanna go? And, you're giving up so much, and do you even have the money?" And, you don't even add because we didn't have a set plan of like, "Oh, we're gonna go to this country, this country, this country." It was like, all we had was we were gonna go to Georgia and figure it out from there. And
Yeah,
it
you're like,
just
"We've got a one-way ticket."
yeah, exactly. So yeah, of course, if things went wrong, you didn't want the "I told you so." So it was just like, "Okay, we're gonna keep on going."
Oh, but I love that your story is so honest about that too, because it's so much more real with all of that. So, on that note, how did you approach writing about some very, very deep personal experiences and challenges while maintaining a compelling narrative for readers today?
Yeah, I mean, I think again, there are lots of different answers for that because even today, I mean, yesterday I got a message from a friend who I haven't spoken to in 10 years saying that they just read my book and they loved it. And I felt this sort of, it's not a self-consciousness because it's almost like I wrote a diary of something that happened about 10 years ago about an ex, and then people are, like, opening up and saying, "Oh, wow, like, this is amazing, I read this yesterday." And for me, it's like once it was published, I shut the book and I don't want to go there again. I can talk about it, but especially when people send me extracts of the book, I'm like, "Oh my god, this is, like, so cringe."
Oh,
Um
no.
Like, I do not want to ever read out an extract or see the chapter. It's like that time's passed. Like, my writing has matured, like, my decisions are better now. So, yeah, that's where I went off track there. But, um, sorry, the question was, how do you do a
Oh, no,
compelling.
just, like, writing about just such personal experiences. I mean, from everything from your relationship with your partner at the time to getting your period in the middle of nowhere, and, I mean, having to put cloth down your pants too, like.
Think well, what was key is that I always kept a diary when I was traveling. I never set off thinking I was going to write a book about this because again, I had no idea what the plan was, but I have always kept a journal. So when I came back, so when I would finish each journal, I would post them back to Edinburgh. And then when I came back to Edinburgh and then my relationship had ended, the journey had ended, I got all my boxes back, had to move into a new flat, and I found well, I had all these journals. I think there were about 5 or 6 of them. And at that point I just finished my travels. I didn't have a job, so I was trying to look for one. I was trying to look for a new place to live, and I didn't know people then. I didn't. I was trying to sort of resettle myself into the city. So I had lots of long, lonely days, and I just thought, right, well, let's type up these journals. And I saw a writing class, so I joined that, and then I sort of joined the dots. I was like, right, well, I'm going to type up the journals, and with this writing class, they sort of gave me the confidence to start writing a book about it.
Okay. Very cool. Yeah. So what would you say you learned about storytelling through, I mean, that there's so much more to your entire writing process now, understanding all of that. So like what did you learn about storytelling through this entire experience that you maybe didn't know before from the journaling? And I was wondering, I was like, she must have kept a journal. What did she, how did she carry these around? And so it's
Yeah,
like interesting that you shipped them back and
yeah.
then taking a writing class. What did you learn about storytelling through all of that?
I think the major lesson I learned is that any novel I read now, even if it's terrible, I'm like, that must have been so hard to write because I've appreciated how hard it is to write a book. I never thought it was going to be this hard. I think I took about 4 years to write my book, and the editing process. And by the end of it, you just want done with it. You don't want to see it again. You're just like making any edit that your publisher says, you're like, yes, whatever, okay, sure. And so now, even if I read a book, as I said, that's rubbish, I'm like, well done to you. I'm
You
gonna give
did
you
it.
at least 2 stars. You did it. Sure,
It's
yeah,
so true. It is so true. I mean, even this podcast has just totally opened up my mind to the writing process, the publishing process, and everything. And so, very similarly, any book that gets, I'm like, good job.
yeah,
Well
good job.
done.
Yeah, and then if you ever like, yeah, I'm on the defense, like, if I ever get a bad review, I'm gonna be like, "Have you ever written a book?" Because if you have, then yeah, you'd rethink it. I
Oh,
must say though now I've got an idea. I mean, I've been writing a second book, and it's almost a lot easier because I know I'm like, no, I'm not going to write 200,000 words to then edit it. I'm just going to try and write the right amount of words. Like I'm trying to like. I think in my first book, I've Walk Like a Girl, I went through about at least 20 drafts. So with this one, I'm like, nope, it's gonna be like 3 max. I'm not going through that torture again.
oh my goodness. Okay. Yeah. There's so much more involved with it than anyone realizes. And two, for especially for your story to be such a personal, emotional one too, I would imagine like hat tip to you for all of that because anytime I'm not a writer, but anytime I've like dabbled a little bit and I've gone down a direction that I'm like, oh, that's a little personal. I'm like,
Yeah.
that sounds too close to my life. We should we'll just scrap that, call her good.
And that's the thing. I think the main thing is writing as if no one is watching, because the minute I start thinking about what my dad's gonna think about that intimate scene, or what my mom's gonna think about my judgment on this, then I can't write. Then what's the point? What's the point in even trying to write? And by the way, they're both delighted for me, and they loved the book. Actually, I think my dad hasn't read it yet. I think he gets a bit too nervous. I'm like his little girl. He doesn't want to see all these crazy things I did. But yeah, I don't that would be my main advice, like, almost just pretend none of these people exist, otherwise you're just not gonna get anything on the page.
No,
Um,
that's really good advice. That's really, really good. Yeah, your dad probably doesn't want you to want to know that you like slept in a minefield. Uh,
yeah, exactly.
like
No.
oh my God, I
Um,
can't imagine if that was me and then my dad and I wrote that and my dad found out. I don't even want to know the
yeah.
lecture that I.
No, it's exactly, but it's so sweet because I think he is the proudest human being. I think he bought about 100 copies of my book and has given them to anyone who like comes to the house. It's like, Dad, just read it before you're like, like just handing them out like freebies. But he's just yeah, a little bit in denial, but also really, really proud.
It's so supportive. Oh, that is so, so, so sweet. Well, I mean, you kind of mentioned it, but how have readers' reactions surprised you?
Yeah, it's actually all been lovely so far. I've been quite overwhelmed. As I sort of said before, I don't really know how to react to these lovely reactions because it's just like, oh, like this is like another face of myself that I don't really want to revisit. So I say these like really awkward thank yous, and like let's move on from the time. Um, but no, I mean a lot of it's just been so positive. I think at the time when I was traveling and because the relationship didn't work out and I was in my own sort of moody self, I didn't share this with many, many, many people. So people were like, "Oh my God, I did not know that you did all this trip. Like I thought you just went, to X place or did this one walk. Like I had no idea like you were like this and that." So that's been really cool. And then I had one reaction which was hilarious, which was from a random book reviewer. But she said, I don't think she understood she was reading a memoir. I think it was early days with the early proofs. But she's like, "Oh, like it's a great story, but I can't stand the main character." I was like, "Oh,
Thanks.
that's me." So she still gave it a 4 star, which she's probably a writer. That's why. But
Oh my goodness. I don't To me though, I'm more like, "Oh man, I see myself in a lot of your like reactions and takes on all of that too." So, it's just a different experience, different personalities, but I would say that that's I don't know. There are two different sides to that. Like some people want either someone that's like really relatable, or they want someone who I don't tells them kind of what they want to hear and goes sort of down like the typical story
yeah,
path. I even
yeah,
think about that with fiction stories too, because I mean there was a story recently I was talking about with some people, and I go, the only thing I was like, the main character, she just talks in questions. And I was like, but to be fair, I have a lot of those questions, so I'm okay with it. And
yeah,
someone else was like, "I think she seems really naive." And I'm in the back of my head, I was like, "I mean, I see myself in this person."
yeah. Yeah, maybe I'm naive.
So, I was like, "Am I naive?
Yeah.
Maybe."
Yeah, and I think you say a good point there because I also part of my part there are like 2 themes in my book, like one being the physical adventure and then the other one also being like the deterioration of a relationship. And I struggle to find books, and I still struggle. I think I found maybe 2 or 3 books about a relationship that's good but it still has to end. It's mostly a love story or the opposite, but where the guy's being mean or the girl's being, it's justifiable. But you get really little stories of something like that is just wonderful and you're best friends and everything seems to tick the box, but there's a but. And I think that is a reality of a lot of our history, a lot of our relationships. Everyone's had a lot of people have had a relationship with Mr. Perfect and or Mrs. Perfect and just but there's just a little but.
Yeah,
Um,
there's something, and no,
yeah,
that's a really, really good point, I think that that's a lot more common than anyone, and maybe that's because it's hard to articulate, and it's hard to talk about, and it's hard to explain eh, there was nothing really wrong,
yeah,
or no one did anything. No
yeah,
one did anything that no you can't point to the one thing that was like, "Oh, yep," and then that
yeah,
sealed the deal.
yeah,
There's not that I mean, top of mind for me, I can only think of one other book that does
yeah.
that. So,
And I find it I mean, everyone can have their complete own opinion about the book, but when someone says to me like, I think he's called Andy in the book, they're like, "Oh, Andy's just an arsehole." I'm like, "No, he's not. That's not the point." It's the point is that they're two good human beings with their own issues, but there's not a villain. I mean, she's super annoying sometimes, and they're just trying to figure things out, and they realize they're not aligned, and then they have to make quite a heartbreaking decision. So it's not I didn't want to villainize anyone because there wasn't a villain. It just life, it happened.
they're just 2 literal humans,
Yeah,
and 2 literal humans in very, very stressful situations. I mean, that's the other thing too, is you have a very honest, obviously, because 'cause they're your memories, honest take on, like, how you would react to some of those situations, and I mean, I think back to the time, my husband and I got lost while we were
mm,
hiking.
yep,
We have very different reactions to that experience.
I
I
can totally
am
imagine.
very annoying
Mm.
when lost in the wilderness. Very, very annoying. I I wouldn't say I'm like the fun person to be around. But he's a little bit short and like a little bit more determined to like figure things out differently than I am. Whereas I spin in circles and I'm like, we can figure it out. I have a map. I'm like, it's fine. Tears roll down my face. And he's like, no, come climb over this log. We're going
Yeah.
this way.
And
Stop
then they
crying.
always choose the way that's like the hardest, and you're like, "No, I'm not gonna go up that hill if we know not for certain that it's not the right way."
We're
Like,
going down. We can't go
yeah.
up. Go down. So,
No,
no,
for sure.
there's not a villain. It's just a very, I mean, yeah, a very like honest take on different types of relationships, and then in some cases too, like those relationships do, there is no but
Yeah,
there's two sides to that for sure.
yeah.
Um what I mean, this is like a multi-layered question. I guess let's start, I'll break it into parts. What advice would you have first for anyone, but maybe especially women who are considering any sort of adventure or travel like you did?
I'd say the hardest part of the whole thing is thinking you're gonna do it. I'd say just do it. Like, stop overthinking it. There's always gonna be a trillion and one excuses. Um, it's a lot trickier later on when you're married and you've got kids and you've got responsibilities. So I think it's essential that if you can, as a young person, no matter what career you've started, or I just think go and have an adventure. Really, because it will change your life, it will change your perspective, it will make you more sensitive, it will give you more empathy, it will give you confidence in yourself to be able to say, "Hey, I've done this, whatever it was, but I've done this, I decided I was gonna do it, and I followed something through." Um, your life's always gonna be there waiting for you. So I just think it's so, so essential. I'm so glad I did it. As I said, I've got 2 kitties, 2 and 3, and already I'm thinking as soon as they're 18, I wanna pluck them out of school and say, "Go, go, 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 go." I'll be terrified, I'll be running after them, but I'll just go and live and, you know, get lost and try and figure a map out in a foreign country, and I just think it's such essential teachings.
I I think you learn so much more doing that than you do in a classroom, and that's not to say that
Definitely.
like love school, love teachers, all of,
Yeah, yeah,
but I feel like you learn so much about the world and about yourself
yeah,
and who you want to be in this world by having those adventures and
yeah,
by getting lost, by um broken speaking a different language to other people while you try to figure out where
yeah,
the train station is.
yeah, yeah.
Um, I mean,
Yeah,
that
you can get really stuck in your community, which is really comfortable, but that's also sort of a metaphor for life, right? You kind of your life is there. It can be really cushy and comfortable, but I just think you need to push yourself at times to time, and promise you, once you've got kids, you're not going to be going anywhere far anytime soon. So, um, yeah, no, I think it's so key to do that.
I completely agree. Okay, so I was gonna ask you what's next, but you kind of hinted it out at it already. You're working on another book.
I'm working on another book. It's a bit tricky to talk about it right now because in my writing process, I need to finished, as I said, this first draft. I'm about 50,000 words in to see if it works. And I find that it's if I just even say what it's about and I get opinions, I'm like so influenced. If someone says to me it's a bad idea or says I should fix this part, I'm gonna be crying in my room under the covers and then never write it again. So let me just sort of finish it and see how it goes before I start advertising it.
Fair, completely fair, absolutely. Well, it's been amazing to connect with you for I know we've been connected for a few months now, and I'm so thankful to have been able to read your story and for you coming onto the show. I'm excited to follow your journey and whatever that looks like moving forward. Where can other readers, travelers, women, anyone connect with you if they would like to?
Perfect. So my main way to connect is on Instagram. I'm at claudia.esnouf.author. And that's what I most use. I'm on X too, but I hardly use it. And I will be building a website at some point. But for now, it's just the Instagram. Yeah.
Absolutely. We will link to that in the podcast notes as well so everyone can easily connect with you there. Claudia, thank you so much again. I have just loved our conversation. I loved you sharing some kind of behind the scenes a little bit, all of your wonderful advice. Thank you again for just taking the time to talk with us and share this more with
Thank,
other readers.
thank you so much, Brie. That was so much fun.
Cheers.
Cheers.